Hi there, I'm Eli Sipka, and this is the Apatros review. Now, before I get into the meat and bones of this review, I just have a couple of things to say. First of all, this has been pretty much a rough year for me. I mean, because in the last year I was unable to get the last remaining reviews in time, so when I had to rush to get them through it, for this year it kind of killed my momentum. So I was ending up with a very low reserve of reviews, and so I haven't been able to upload as frequently as I wanted to, which pretty much has depleted my total episodes for this year. I'll be lucky if I get up to 75 reviews, but hopefully I'll get up to that. And actually, the last couple of months have been pretty rough, especially since I actually had moronic Corona, Omicron COVID, and I lost a friend of mine a few weeks ago. So it's going to be been rough. But anyway, I've recovered now, so hopefully I'll try and get these as much as I can. So that's number one. Number two is, and I'm going to be giving a warning for the next few episodes about something that's been happening on YouTube. I'm not going to do like an episode specifically talking about this, as other YouTubers have. Feels kind of a bit redundant, but I'm just going to repeat this warning for the next bunch of episodes, and that is, there is a scam going on YouTube right now. I haven't been hit by this one just yet, because I'm pretty much a small channel at this point, but many of the major YouTubers have been hit by these scam bots. Now, the scam bots basically impersonate the channel. Actually, there's different types of scam bots, but these ones impersonate channel with a number in their profile name, like a WhatsApp number or whatever, and basically telling people it's not like an original post. It's just a reply to certain people, and they tell you to contact them to basically that you won a prize of a giveaway. Now, the reality is, not a single one of these YouTubers channels have actually done any giveaways. This is a scam. This scam bots. I mean, these things are like cockroaches. Actually, to use an analogy, this is like a Warhammer 40k orcs. Now, the orcs in the Warhammer 40k. Actually, I wish I had one of the figures just to show you the prop. Anyway, when you kill them, their bodies explode, and because they're basically fungus. Actually, orcs are basically a combination of magic mushrooms and English soccer hooligans from the 1980s. And their behavior is like English football hooligans, but they're basically fungus, and when they die, their bodies explode and they just spread out millions of spores. So that's why when one orc lands on your planet's screwed. You're going to need to, the only way to kill them is basically to toast them with a flamethrower. And these scam bots, these are basically like orcs, except instead of living to fight, they're basically living to, well, scam people. I mean, they don't like just steal your account. Wait, if you contact them, they'll just steal like the shipping money. That's why. That's the whole point of the scam. Just make some dishonest money. And so, in order to kill these scam orcs, we pretty much need to form a chapter of Space Marines specifically for YouTube to take on these suckers. And of course, YouTube has failed to act on this problem. I mean, there's one YouTuber that's actually created a program. His name is Theo Joe, and he created a program that YouTubers can use to basically remove these scammers from their channel. And I hope anyone out there who actually has a YouTube channel should download this program. Just look it up. Anyway, so just in case, I'll repeat this warning for the next bunch of episodes. But the thing is that if anyone of you out there comes across a comment section on any YouTube channel that has the profile picture of the owner of the channel, but different writing and just saying that you're on a giveaway, these only appear as replies. Ignore it, and plus reporting them won't work, because even if YouTube does take down the comment, this thing, like I said, it's like 40k orcs. They just spread more of them around. Anyway. Okay, so that's it for the second part. So just don't fall for it, and that's all. Of course, many of us channels have actually been looking for our comments and removing these suckers. But like I said, unless we create the YouTube equivalent of a flamethrower to toast these things, they're going to be around for a while. Anyway. Okay, I'm kind of just eating up my time for that one, but anyway, let's get into the review. Now, in this episode, we take a look at Life Returns. This is actually the oldest This is the oldest film in the Sci-Fi Invasion box set from Mill Creek. And this is from 1935. Actually, technically speaking, its original premiere in USA was on the 2nd of January 1935, but it was re-released on the 10th of June 1938. This is actually a Universal film, technically speaking. So it was part of the Universal Golden Age horror, but this is pretty much the bastard stepchild of the bunch. Now, the directors actually had two directors, Eugene Franke and James P. Hogan. It was written by Arthur T. Horman and John F. Goodrich, and the story was from Eugene Franke and James P. Hogan, and with additional dialogue by Mary Eunice McCarthy and L. Wolfe Gilbert. And it stars Onslow Stevens, Lewis Wilson, Valerie Hobson, Frank Riker, Richard Carler, Robert E. Cornish, an actual scientist, and George P. Brakeson has a kid in the film who actually went on to make another film that's actually in the Sci-Fi Invasion set with The Manster. I'll review that sometime in the future. Anyway. Now, if you want to get this film, it is public domain, but on DVD, pretty much the Sci-Fi Invasion box set has it. So look that up. I'll be reviewing some of these Sci-Fi Invasion films in the coming episodes, hopefully. Now, the bastard stepchild of the Universal Studios Golden Age of Horror, Life Returns, was originally an actual experiment conducted by a certain Dr. Robert E. Cornish. And this guy was not like no mad scientist. It was actually a respected scientist who had an experiment to pretty much revive the dead. He used a teeter board, adrenaline, and anticoagulants to temporarily reanimate a dog that had been dead for a little while. Now, this experiment was actually, he'd done a couple of these, but one of these was actually recorded for posterity. But what the reality was that the experiment was ultimately a failure, as well as being something of an unethical experiment. Not by the standards of those days, but by today's standards. See, the dead dogs that Cornish worked on were put down by himself for the experiment and once revived. And I mean, the dogs once revived were only lived for about a few hours, spending their entire remaining time in extreme pain. Now, in the early 1930s, Ukrainian-born producer Eugene Franke, and that's just a coincidence I'm reviewing something about a Ukrainian director, was given the chance to use the Cornish experiment. By the way, the 2015 sci-fi horror film The Lazarus Effect was actually loosely based on the Cornish experiment, just so you know. So if you look up Lazarus Effect, I'm actually trying to get a copy of that film one day. Sounds interesting. For making a film, which was duly done. But the suits at Universal, following a previous screening, decided to pull the film from its intended general release because they saw it as a freak picture, not suitable for the regular Universal program. But they did give Life Returns a roadshow release, which is also known as a reserved seat engagement, which is basically where a film is given like a limited preview screening at a certain number of cinemas for a specific period of time before the film was issued for wide release. And as well as this serving to give the film some time to build up steady appeal so that the wide release is more successful. They used to do this for decades, back in the early days up till like around the 1960s. It was common practice. And up until now, I mean, if you there were preview screens you could win in competitions, and usually they had like merchandise you could buy there. And also they use these screens to gauge public support, like opinions on the film. Usually they will have like a longer version of the film, and then they will ask the audience to if anything needs to be removed. That was a kind of a practice back then. And yeah, so the film was given roadshow release. The film was banned in the UK for a number of years due to the inclusion of the actual experiment. Although watching it today has no negative effect on the viewer, except for the feeling that such experiments should have been outlawed given how the results went. Also notable is that the dog actor is actually a different breed and sex than the dog used in the experiment. In 1937, Franke actually launched a lawsuit against Universal for $145,424 because Universal did not issue the film for regular channels. Of course, Universal dropped the film, and Cyanide Pictures reissued the film in 1938. Of course, that 1935 release is kind of the record's kind of sketchy about that. But according to IMDb, the film was released on the 2nd of January 1935. That's according to the IMDb. But like I said, not much records. There were some reviews in trade papers at the time, but it's kind of hard to pin that one down. Now, as for the story, Life Returns is an oddly structured film. Indeed, some may call it schizophrenic. The story concerns a scientist named John Kendrick, who attempts to get his friends to join him in working for a commercial scientific laboratory once they graduate from college. so they can have the funds to work in their pet project to revive the dead. But the friends, one of whom is Robert E. Cornish himself, although it looks like that they may have used a body double for those early scenes, because the only other time you see him is during the experiment itself. So Cornish and the female chick, doctor, they declined the offer, knowing that they won't get the credit of their success for the project. Kendrick goes out alone, marries a local socialite, whose name we never hear mentioned, has a son and a dog, and in addition to his main job as a private research scientist for that commercial company, also has a side job as a GP. But Kendrick's life falls apart once the company refuses his request for some much needed equipment, purely because they want him to concentrate on making hair bristles from pigs, which then escalates to Kendrick being laughed at the scientific community when he appeals to them to authorize his experiments. His private GP practice shuts down when he kicks an influential patient out. His wife dies from an unspecified cause, and finally his lack of a paying job forcing the police to order his son to be taken to a juvenile home, which is where the film tries to do the whole social commentary thing but falls flat on its ass due to the botched attempt. But things change around when the hand of fate gives Kendrick a chance to fulfill his dream by getting his old friend's help to revive his son's beloved pooch. The film was billed as a science fiction film in some places and a horror film in others, so hence why Universal had the golden age of horror. But despite this, there is no real sci-fi element in the film. Even though the experiment was ultimately futile, it was conducted for real, and there was no fantastical element in it. It was basically actual science, but no science fiction. And the horror element is utterly non-existent. Nothing scary to see here, folks. So this film is only part of the Universal Studios' golden age of horror by dint of being made by Universal, even though they ultimately washed their hands of it. As such, after watching it, I have to say that Life Returns was nothing more than a mess of a picture. I actually mentioned as the film feels schizophrenic, having a slapdash feeling to it thanks to all the contrasting elements. The film starts as a college film, then a melodrama, then a rather tawdry boy and his dog story, and then making some ham-fisted attempt at social commentary, then a bad Little Rascals knockoff, and then finally reaching the climax, where the little boy's much-loved dog, having been euthanized by a local dog catcher, is taken to Cornish to be reanimated. Even though the dog character was a male dog, and a different breed than the experiment subject, which was actually a female dog at the very least. In fact, during the experiment, you can actually see the nipples on the female dog. And at the end, the boy is reunited with his best friend Doggo, who gives him a nice, sloppy doggy kiss. Actually, I have a dog of my own who gives me a kiss all the time. Now, while you're watching this, you'll spend the whole time practically scratching your head, wondering what genre this film trying to fit itself into. I think the BBFC in the UK banned the film because they probably couldn't understand what genre it was. Anyway, as such, the end result is just a poorly made film, although the inclusion of the actual experiment does elevate to a slight degree in my grading book. It's not often you get to see actual science being performed in an actual film, especially in the 1930s. Wow. Even for the experiment was very dubious. I mean, the dogs that were used in the experiment were actually gassed, and then they were brought back to life later. And if I remember correctly, they only lived for about a few hours in extreme pain. Now, Life Returns gets a D+, 3 out of 10. It's a disappointing film. Now, there's no gore or nudity in this film, not even during the experiment. Now, this film is in the public domain, as I mentioned before, and my review copies from the Mill Creek Sci-Fi Invasion box set that many reviewers in the internet sphere have tackled at some point or another. It's perhaps the most infamous box set in Mill Creek's massive catalogue, and I consider the set as my favorite of its type. And there's a lot of films on that set that are actually quite cool, particularly the Italian ones. I will review every film on that set eventually. Some might take a little bit more because I have other copies of that film, but anyway. And as for Life Returns, the print used for the set is taken off a VHS. I can tell that by the tape roller artifacts present on the print. And for the most part, it looks pretty decent given the source used. It is relatively clear, but still has that old age and a very hazy system format working against it. Okay. So that's it for Life Returns. It gets a D+, 3 out of 10. It's disappointing. I mean, it would have been a D, but the experiment itself, elevates at 1 point. Anyway. Okay, a little bit of a long review, but sorry about that. Okay, prefaced by that warning. I'm going to repeat that warning for the next bunch of episodes, just to make sure that you viewers out there understand what's going on. Because this is a very big problem on YouTube right now. Yeah. And I'm going to try and get these reviews as often as possible, back to the 1 every 3 days format if I can. And in fact, I'm going to watch the next film to... Actually, I'm going to watch the next review subject right after this, to upload this video. So in the next 3 days, keep an eye out for that. Keep it a surprise. Okay. Now, if you have any questions about films or DVDs in general, just hit me up in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer. And if any of those scam orcs try to get on my channel, I'm going to squish you guys. Okay. Stay safe, guys. Take it easy, and that's it for this review. See ya.